What's up, y'all? Don't mind me. I just woke up 30 minutes ago. Now, I wanted to make this video for a while. I just never had the opportunity. And this video is not going to be an advice video. It's not going to be a self-guide video. I want to be straight up with y'all. So, yeah. Okay, so here's the thing that I'm noticing, right? I keep noticing a pattern in my own life where there were moments where I was probably being artificial, or maybe I was performing for a room, and then all of a sudden people who were authentically themselves, they were recognizing what I was doing, and they were like, be yourself, right? We all heard of that cliche, hopefully. If you haven't, then maybe you're not around people that'll challenge you. Or maybe you're around people that fit in and they fit the mold, right? So, yeah, I was like, all right, I'll be myself. I don't know what that looks like, but I'll try my best. It never fucking worked. Okay, it never fucking worked. That's probably the biggest BS I've ever heard, because being yourself is not what the cliche tries to make it out to be. It's completely different. I'm tired of just like having to force myself to fit in circles that I don't fit in. And even though it's not a major problem right now, I still sense some lack of belonging. And this hits me on a personal level. I'm not sure how y'all navigate the world and stuff. Everyone has different communication styles. For my communication style, I think being in environments that are shared, right? Being in shared environments also provides people that are misaligned. So I guess life is all about finding who you align with and stuff. But that can be exhausting. All right, that is the most exhausting thing I've ever had to deal with, because I have to put in extra work to find people, and I don't want to sound lazy. I don't want to sound like I'm complaining, but eventually you just want something light. And I'm sure for surface level people, I don't necessarily like to use the term surface level. I think for lighter, shallow people who like to have shallow conversations with one another, and that's the best way they can connect with each other, they might need someone who has a more depth-oriented presence. They might need someone who likes to bring up deep topics so they can stay afloat. So you kind of have this bridge where one side needs the other. Essentially, I think that's kind of what I need. But even though I was protecting my depth, right? Even though I was protecting my natural personality, the depth side, for just a little bit of time earlier this year, because I wanted lighter things, I realized that the lighter things are not enough. I still get misunderstood. And so the root problem, I know this is the root problem because this pattern has been revealing for so long. The root pattern is being misunderstood. And I don't have a fear of being, I had a fear of being misunderstood. Now, I could care less. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I could care less, man, because that shit is so draining, bro. If being yourself means you're gonna be misunderstood, so be it. I'll take ownership of who I am completely. Yet you still get questioned for what you do and stuff. So for someone who's been misunderstood, it just feels like a never-ending cycle. I kind of wish the world wasn't this way. I kind of wish people were more accepting of difference instead of tolerant. However, unfortunately, that's not how the world works. The world works in rigid ways. The world likes to have more groupthink and people coming together in groups, which is completely fine until they start bringing in exclusion, until they start disobeying the values they have of, we value freedom for all. Do you really value freedom? Do you value having a different person in your group? Do you value having someone who has quirks that are different than yours? I bet you don't. I'm just tired of hearing that cliche. I'm tired of hearing the same old cliche from years ago telling me just be yourself and everything else will play out. It's true, right? But it's not enough. In fact, oh my God. In fact, conversely, I think those pieces of advice are pretty unhelpful and inaccurate in the long run, if you ask me. Yes, it's pretty easy to be yourself. However, people don't tell you how hard it is for you to actually be yourself. You're risking being misunderstood. You're risking being judged. You're risking not fitting in. You're risking losing a lot of people that you normally wouldn't. And if you're not hurt by losing people, I don't know what to tell you. Maybe this video probably doesn't serve you then. I hate to break it to you, but it sucks. It sucks to lose people that you thought you would be friends with. It sucks to lose people that you were friends with, that you had, they had a little superficial bond with. Maybe y'all had meaningful connection through conversations, through interests, through engaging in similar hobbies. Kind of how everyone has meaningful connections and deepens them. But here's the thing. For me, I'm just telling you my experiences, right? And yeah, you can kind of tell this topic is sensitive for me because it is. Like, I was misunderstood and even judged for little things. That's why I'm non-judgmental. I mean, literally, bro, the same behaviors that destabilized who I was, the same behaviors that made me adapt to the environment are also the same behaviors that revealed who I am truly. Such as being non-judgmental, being inclusive. Do I accept everything? Of course not. There's certain things that crosses moral lines. There are certain behaviors that I tolerate, I don't fully accept because they seem wrong to me. However, would I scold the person? No. I'm gonna be honest, and that's a whole different conversation. Okay, for me, I call out behavior. I call out someone's character. I don't necessarily attack them like, oh, you're a liar, you're this, you're that, because you're assigning a label to someone that they didn't ask for. And guess what? That's what I dealt with. So I don't have any advice for you. Just wanted to come on here and rant a little bit about this, hoping that there's some resonation. Oh my God. I'm hoping that there is some resonance in the comment section or whoever watches this video. And please, I would love to hear your experience because I know this is a universal experience. However, simply not talking about it enough is exactly why these conversations get dug under the rug, if that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, having these honest self-talks, I never imagined myself to even face a camera right in front of me and even tell you guys how I actually feel for an entire 8 to 10 minute video. I'm looking at the time as I'm speaking right now, and like I said a couple seconds ago, being yourself and fixing the cliche of how being yourself actually looks like in real life are one of those topics where people acknowledge and they're aware of, yeah, this exists. However, whenever you're being upfront about the issue, whenever you have a differing opinion, usually people will freeze and then they'll shift to a different topic of mental health. They'll shift to something completely different and sweep them under the rug. From now on, what adjustments am I going to make? So I already have a couple of adjustments I'm going to make. I'm just going to be myself. I don't care if I get judged. I don't care if I get misunderstood. Like, I really don't give a fuck anymore about that shit. Just gonna be honest with you. I'm going to live out my life without permission too, because when you try and ask for permission to others on how you want to live, you're basically practicing a form of external validation. And I talked about external validation in the last video. I won't be repeating the term. This is probably the last video you're going to hear me talk about external validation until Mental Health Awareness Month, when I make a validation video, because I'm planning on making a video solely on validation. So those are the kinds of adjustments I'm going to make. Another thing is I'm going to be a little bit vulnerable. I'm afraid of being completely vulnerable because people take advantage of your vulnerability. However, I'll be vulnerable just enough so I can build a more meaningful connection. Because that's the problem. I was avoiding vulnerability. So what do? You become vulnerable. And people like to twist the word vulnerable and stuff. I even had it happen in real life. I'm not going to mention any names, but they were like, Mateo, why would you be vulnerable? Like, why do you want to be vulnerable? You're going to appear weak. I'm thinking they don't know what vulnerable actually means, because there are different definitions of vulnerable. So I'm afraid they're lacking context. They're lacking a sense of vocabulary context. There's not like one definition of vulnerable and that's it. You don't go on a dictionary and say, oh, there's one word. Yeah, no shit, there's one word. There's one word with different meanings, right? Vulnerable happens to be one of those single words with more than one meaning and layered meanings as well. So yeah, look up what vulnerable means to the people that don't know what they're talking about. All right, we made it to the end of the video. Thank you for staying until the very end. I appreciate y'all. Just want to say, if y'all have any food ideas, if y'all have anything else you want me to make, let me know in the comment section, and I will be working on those videos. Thank you for your time. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned.